Okay, happy Thanksgiving to one and all from us here at the Phightins Phinal to everybody out there who's probably getting ready to sit down and gorge themselves on turkey or whatever it is your Thanksgiving. I don't know of anybody. Al, do you know of any other favorite meal entree? Is it exclusive turkey? I mean, is there another
I'll
protein
be
you
honest
serve
with
on
you.
Thanksgiving?
Growing up in an Italian household in the Philadelphia area, we had the turkey, we had the trimmings and all that fun stuff, but our table was probably filled more with lasagnas and raviolis and Italian, like your typical Italian food.
Right.
And if you wanted your turkey, I mean, I never, to be honest with you, not a big turkey guy. Like I enjoy turkey occasionally, maybe a turkey sandwich, turkey club here and there. But just roasted turkey on Thanksgiving, I'd rather have all the stuff that goes around it than the actual turkey itself.
Yeah, I mean, so would I, and I apologize for deviating from the intro. We got off topic, but yeah, happy Thanksgiving from the
Yeah.
Phightins Final. We're back. We are back
Yep.
and joined with Big Al. Pat from Ambler will be joining us here in a minute, but we are back because it is that time of the year. As you guys are sitting down enjoying your Thanksgiving dinner, which I hope the hell Thanksgiving finds all of you happy, healthy, and happy. We are going to sit here, and it's time to do the autopsy of the 2023 Philadelphia Phillies, and as well as look ahead at the 2024 Philadelphia Phillies as they are beginning to take shape right in front of our eyes. And Al, first and foremost, and I'll express this to Pat when I see him here in a minute. I want to thank you. It was a great season. We did what we had to do. We added a wrinkle to the final. We brought on we brought on three other people, you, Pat, and Mike, and we added the articles. We had another great World Series run. So season 2 of the Phightins Phinal was definitely 1,000% better than season number 1.
Yeah, no, and each one keeps getting better. I know we'll be having our Phightins final meeting probably early January.
Yep.
A lot of new things coming on, maybe even some new faces. I know guys like Rock Hoffman who joined us in the postseason down from definitely enjoyed his time. A lot of fan favorites, Rock Hoffman, a lot of great articles from Rock, especially being down at the stadium gives them that perspective that some people can't have. So, hopefully we'll be seeing a lot more of him in the 2024 season.
Yeah, Rock was a great add-on. He was a surprise add-on at the end, having that right in the literally press box person coming at us after every playoff game. A bittersweet season though, Al, and we're going to start kind of, one last time, I guess, kind of tear open the scab as we're going to go into that wound. I'm still hot. I ain't going to lie to you. I haven't gotten over it yet. Every day is better, but the way the season ended is still not sitting well with me. And I guess I'll have one last say at it. But before we start dissecting the season, Al, I got to ask you this. And I guess we're kind of going to the end of this. I'm going to give away the surprise before we talk about the riddle. But
Are you gonna Tarantino this?
no, no,
Are you give the ending
no.
away and then
Well, maybe somewhat, but we have a lot to talk about, and I want to make
yeah.
sure I hit it. But in your opinion, based on everything that was expected of the Phillies from not only probably the ownership, the team, but more importantly from the fans, was this a successful season in your eyes?
Hmm. Um, it depends on what part of the season you ask somebody that, because if you remember, quietly moving into this season, people kind of thought this was not a World Series season.
Yeah,
This was kind of like a gap season, I should say. Um, and things came out that way because they were waiting to make some moves. Still bringing in Trey Turner, you would think that wouldn't be the case. Still having a lot of the core that we had going into 2022. I did not believe this to be a gap season. And so, I mean, the goal is to win championships, right? Matty B. I mean, you always agree upon that.
yeah,
I mean, last year, I think anything would have been considered, outside of the NLDS would be considered a successful season. I mean, anything last year would have been in 2022 would be considered successful because we haven't, been the playoffs for a very long time. But making it to the NLDS, then the NLCS, and of course losing in the World Series in 2022 made expectations super high coming into the 2023 season. With that being said, I guess my answer is no, it wasn't successful. They should have beaten Arizona. So in my eyes, it ultimately successful. No, I mean, anytime you make it to to the NLCS, you have to consider that somewhat successful. But if you keep tripping at the finish line, you start to wonder. But no, not making it past the Diamondbacks actually to me was a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, I totally agree. And speaking of somewhat successful, we're joined here by Pat, the Gobbler. Pat, welcome. I gave a little bit of an intro, thanking Al for his contributions this season. Now I want to give you your thanks for making the season 2 of the Phightins Phinal the best ever, and then hopefully going forward, which I'm sure it will be, we're going to add more layers to this thing. But I'm going to throw the question to you. Again, I'm going to the end of the story before we get into the meat of it. But in Pat's opinion and his assessment, was the 2023 Phillies season a success?
You know what? Because we had expectations of World Series all over again. We had expectations of us winning the whole thing. So, granted, to make the postseason for the second time straight with a still freshly new and stubborn manager at the helm, no, I don't think it was. I think that you collapsed in the second round. I had the expectations of this team collapse in the second round. I just didn't think of the consistent with the arms that I've seen throughout the course of the year. I didn't think the starting arms constantly put this team in a hole was going to eventually catch up with them. And for the beginning portion of this Phillies and Diamondbacks series was really good, but then again. A team that they didn't see before, a pitching staff that they weren't used to seeing, and it caught up to them, and they lost eventually. So, no, I would say it's when it comes down to it, I would have to give a big picture. I would have to give it to a C plus. You didn't pass. You didn't meet our expectations. You collapsed. I thought if you got past the Diamondbacks, you would have been more suitable for the Rangers, and no, you weren't. You weren't overall, and just you got rocked by that by a Diamondback team that was a little bit more hungry than you, had a little bit more of an edge. And I don't know what it is about that new wild card spot, but whoever gets that becomes the most hungriest team in the NL, and I don't know what it is. So I don't know. I felt like the team just could have been better for what they were. Like I just alluded about the starting pitching. I thought the bats were very, very well. I thought, a season that we didn't see coming from Nick Castellanos or Bryson Stott was totally blew us off. A first half from Greg Kimbrell kind of shocked us. Those guys kind of representing us in the for the All-Star game. But the second half it was tipsy-topsy. Trey Turner didn't really get on hot until the second half, and then so forth. So, yeah, I got to average this out to being a C plus.
So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to provide my answer. You got to look at things on the surface. Phillies won 87 games in 2022 and they won 90 in 2023. So that's improvement. I think that the pitching was much more consistent overall in 2023 than it was in 2022. Because I'm gauging the season prior, but things got off to kind of a topsy-turvy start. But one of the major issues that I had with this team all season long was the inconsistencies, the overall inconsistencies, especially with the offense. I disagree. I think our offense was predicated on one aspect of the game, and that was to hit home runs. And then that's obviously how we died because we couldn't make contact, small ball, if you will, contact hitting. That goddamn runners in scoring position haunted me all season long, and I'm going to bring it up again today, but. That's something that this team did not improve upon in 2022, and in a lot of aspects they got worse in 23. Now they hit more home runs in 2023, but it seems like they kind of took a step backwards. And I'm not necessarily sure if it's because of the manager or the general manager or the president giving them the type of players that they had. But I agree. I think it was an unsuccessful season because we took a step backwards. We didn't get back to the World Series. We obviously didn't win the World Series, and we lost in the NLCS. And that series with the Diamondbacks will haunt me. That was one of the bad ones, man. That's one of the ones that's going to stick with me for a very long time going forward. And I cannot wait, as you can see the scroll down there, until February 13th when we can finally start exercising those demons properly. But before we get into the second segment, and again, I believe it was unsuccessful. Al, I think our friends over at Philly Sports Trips would like to let us know some things.
Yeah, well, talking about Phillies baseball, and of course, every time we think about baseball in general, it gives you that warm, tingly feeling. So go to phillysportstrips.com right now, sign up, get your spring training games. They have a bunch of trips going on. They have one March 1st through the 4th, so you can hit Florida quickly with your Philly spring training. And I've been down there numerous times. Spring training in Florida is just amazing. Go to phillysportstrips.com, sign up for one of these amazing trips they have there. And or, if you really want to go all out, head to London, check it out. But
Oh,
flights and
yeah.
hotel packages are sold out already, people. That's how much of a big demand it was. So they still have the welcome party, they still have the tailgate, all that stuff's still available. But you need to get your own way there now, because you snooze, you lose. And I've been telling you guys about this since, I don't know, they announced it. So if you can't make one of those, and if you can't get that, all those amazing trips, and I know they got plenty more. They're already dropping their summer trips out. So go to phillysportstrips.com, and they have that and many other trips besides just Phillies. Check it out, phillysportstrips.com.
And if you can't get the flight, all you got to do is get a boat, get on the Delaware,
Yeah,
hang a right,
there you go.
and then take a sharp 45-degree angle right when you don't see any land. And then, I don't know, in about a couple of weeks, you should hit the UK. So there's more than one ways to get to London. Yeah, start right now. You might get there in time. All right, boys, it's time to turn the clock back. I want to take you guys back to February of 2022. I want to take you back to where we were at this, 23, at the start of the season. Let's refresh all the folks at home. Going into last season, the Phillies were down 3 starting pitchers, Kyle Gibson, Zach Eflin, and Noah Syndergaard, all jettisoned by free agency, and Gene Segura as well decided to take off. But in their stay, the Phillies did add on a couple players. Matt Strahm came via free agency. Greg Soto, a trade with the Detroit Tigers. Ty Walker. Ty, where have you gone in the playoffs, Walker? Free agent signing a 4-year deal. Mr. Craig Kimbrell, a free agent deal. And, of course, the mega deal, the cornerstone, if you will, of the 2023 free agency class, Trey Turner, that big 13-year contract. I'm going to go to Al with this first. Al did, based on what we lost at the end of 2022 and what we got back on paper. Now, of course, we don't have hindsight. We do, but we shouldn't talk about this as hindsight right now. What was your feelings with that free agency group? Did the Phillies touch on the needs heading into 2023?
Yeah, I believe they did. I mean, listen, we were all super excited with all those free agent moves. Like you said, we lost a lot of guys. When you have success, even though it wasn't the total success, but when you have success, guys want to move on. They want to get paid, whatever it is, or maybe move to a team that's going to give them more playing time. However it lays out. But bringing in Harper's buddy. I wish somebody on the Phightins Phinal was saying this for like a year before it happened, that Trey Turner was going to be
a
here.
lot about it, boy.
Yeah. So, listen, I think they hit all the right buttons, and that's why I can't blame Dombrowski for anything like this. I mean, you can't. Not every player is going to be the top player in their game, but finding guys who can fill in, play roles. They definitely have role players on this team. I mean, guys like who we thought were going to be big role players, like Amundo Sosa going into this 2023. After a while, it kind of fizzled out, and then those role players stepped up. They bring in Stubbs, who is a very good backup catcher for what he's done. But it's, again, I think hindsight being what it is, I know we could talk about Kimbrell just crumbling, from Kimbrell to crumbling, but certain guys did fall off. I mean, even they brought a guy in during the trade deadline who, perfect game and everything, and then poof, he was gone. But listen, in hindsight, without using hindsight, on paper, I believe the Phillies did an excellent job filling some of these gaps, as well as bolstering the lineup on top, or bolstering the team on top of it all.
Pat, I'm going to send it down to you. Kind of the same question, but with a little wrinkle in it. With the addition of all those players, the Taijuan Walker 4-year contract, kind of known product in Ty Walker. He kind of gets out of the gate well, but then he seems to have that dead arm issue in August. That's been his MO with the Mets. And obviously now we can use hindsight with Taijuan Walker. That might have been the issue here because we obviously didn't see him at all in October. What was your take on the moves the Phillies made this past offseason?
First of all, Yeah, I mean, listen, just to kind of go over some of the moves here again. Trey Turner, like who didn't want to sign up for that, right? You bring in
Yeah.
one of the power bats, you bring in Bryce Harper's guy, you bring in somebody who can smack the cover off the ball, and from what we've seen in a little bit of the World Classic, and he was doing just that. Um, but then, like you say, you bring in like Taiwan Walker's the world. I was not on board with this move. That might have been one of the big moves I wasn't on board with because I've seen the Phillies pick him apart the year prior, and I'm like, I don't know if I want that throwing the ball because I've seen a couple of games that he was throwing, and he gives you some cookies right down the middle, and I was like, I'm not sure if I want to touch that one, but I was gonna go with the Philly faithful. I mean, I'm not the one who signs the checks. David Dombrowski does, and I was going to see what he was. What can I see more of? Of Taiwan Walker. Maybe I'm missing something here, and I didn't think he had the greatest off starts here. Matter of fact, I thought he struggled a little bit at the gates. I thought he did okay as the season went on, but eventually he just turned out to me to be mediocre without throughout the course of the season for the Phils. I mean, I thought I'd seen better pitching from the closing when he was coming through. So to me, like you had arms like the Greg Sotos of the world, Greg Kimbrell who would bail this team out of trouble. You had an offensive juggernaut team that would bail this team out of trouble. So I think he was kind of like, and then it was kind of a slap to the face to him when they didn't even bother to even look at him to bring him in for an arm. So again, he just sat through the postseason and eat peanuts. So yeah, that was the one that kind of irked me. Again, hindsight, going back to last February to where we are now, yeah, the moves they made was obviously a lot better because where they wound up in the postseason. Look, we just fought for a postseason last year. This time we were certified back a month out, saying we had that fourth spot locked up. So definitely an improvement from last year.
Yeah, my take on the pickups, and real quick, because it's going to set up my next question. When you lose three starting pitchers, you lost Kyle Gibson. Again, Kyle Gibson ain't setting the world on fire. I get what he was. He was actually really good for about the first 3 months of the season. Then when the weather got warm, he got cold. Then you brought in Noah Syndergaard at the trade deadline last year, which don't even get me started on the Logan O'Hoppe nonsense and what we gave up. I know he was part of the Moniak deal, but um, wait, it was Moniak for Marsh and Hoppy for Syndergaard, right? Was that how that went?
I think it was I think it was all at one time, right? Or was it separate?
There were two separate moves.
They...
There were two separate trades. Anyway, he's involved. So that will always bother me because Syndergaard was a half a year wonder and he was gone. And then you lose Zach Eflin, who I really thought was the keystone. I would have liked to have re-signed Eflin. I know he was looking for money that the Phillies
Brandon
were
Marsh.
Give him with
it was the Brandon Marsh deal.
But when they go out and they sign Taiwan Walker, to me, okay, he was part of the Brandon Marsh. It's still all the same to me. It's damn interest. Anyway, when you go out and you only sign one starting pitcher, it signaled a couple things to me. We haven't talked about the Bryce Harper injury yet. Don't forget, we're still coming off of a Bryce Harper, Tommy John. He wasn't going to be part of the. We were thinking what, July, August was the initial reports.
I mean, that's the thing is that I think that was the other big thing. Him coming back as early as he did.
Right. But at that time, we didn't know that. We thought it was more like, I know what he said and all that, but the fact that the Phillies only addressed one starting pitcher in free agency and in the trades, that's it. It was Taiwan Walker. It said that they were putting a lot of stress and a lot of hope and a lot of expectation on one Andrew Painter, which to me, I thought was the wrong thing going into the season. It turned out, obviously, was horrible. Andrew Painter got hurt, but it really put us, I think, up against the eight ball heading into in spring training. So I like the additions in the bullpen. I thought those were key, and I thought those were key actually to our success. We can pick apart Kimbrel all we want, and he deserves a lot of that. But he did pitch well for a long stretch of the season for us. So I think the upgrade in the bullpen and then Trey Turner ultimately was great too. But I just didn't think they did enough with the starting pitching last offseason, and it came back and it might have burned us a little bit. But let's get to spring training now. As I mentioned, the major stories down there were the Bryce Harper injury, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto heading off to do the WBC. And then Andrew Painter, I want to talk about him right now. Andrew Painter, hyped up like anything I've not seen for a pitcher who's never pitched above Double A. Obviously, it was the minor league pitcher of the year in 2022. On his first start in spring training, he leaves the game with arm tightness or shoulder tightness, and of course, it turns into Tommy John surgery. Sum up the spring training for the Phillies for me, Al. Was it tumultuous with the Painter thing, WBC, throw in the Rhys Hoskins injury? Where are you coming out on spring training in 2023 for the Phillies?
I mean, I think the best way of explaining it was been a roller coaster of emotions because you're watching the World Baseball Classic. You're watching Trey Turner just put on a clinic in the WCB or WBC, and you're like, oh my God, this is what we're gonna get. Oh, look at what we bought. Like it's like you know what you're getting for Christmas. You're watching it on a commercial. You can't wait to open it Christmas morning. That's what it was like that. And then the Andrew Painter thing started to happen. You're like, okay, well, they're just gonna take a little time to bring him back up. And then when they said he was shut down, it was like, oh, didn't happen right away. But you just didn't bode well. And then you knew what you didn't know. You just didn't feel. Yeah, you didn't feel very confident in it. And then I just felt like the Rhys Hoskins thing was just telling us, we're gonna have to earn this one. Like it's just like I feel like the world was against us at that moment. And it's funny how we react to the Rhys Hoskins injury, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit further on. But I mean, most people, and I included, were one of those people who said, I'm over the Rhys Hoskins experiment. But as soon as Rhys Hoskins goes down and there's any struggles, Rhys Hoskins was going to be the answer to our struggles somehow.
He was.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah. But
called on him like oof.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it started, which I think that sluggish start to the to the Phillies season that we saw a little bit kind of knock people down. But at the same time, this team is known for kind of picking themselves back up. But it was definitely, I think, the best way of explaining with a roller coaster of emotions: the good, the bad, and definitely the ugly.
Yeah, and Pat, same down to you. When you go into spring as defending NL champions, and then you're already down your best player in Bryce Harper, the guy that you're pinning on of at least finding out what kind of pitcher he was. Andrew Painter is shut down now for a while. You got JT Realmuto, Kyle Schwarber, and Trey Turner spending 15 days away from the facility as they're participating in the World Baseball Classic, and then you got the Rhys Hoskins injury. How are you coming out of spring training with this team?
It's very interesting because again, when you go into the postseason, when you go into the World Series, you're obviously your season extended to pretty much not get you get rarely any rest. Maybe only got like a 2-month window of a break. And to see this team, to see how would they battle back? Is this team? All these questions were popping in my mind. Is this team going to be a one-hit wonder? Are they going to be legit contenders in the NL? What is this team? And then you bring in Andrew Painter. Everyone's sitting on their edge of their seats and wanting to see what this kid's going to bring to the table. Then that happens, and then of course, when Rhys went down, and I felt like there was a mix of emotions. Granted, the guy's got pop. He brings something to that locker room. All that fun stuff. We saw him through, and I'm pretty sure we'll touch on it. We saw him the bulk of the time just hanging in a dugout, just trying to guess. Riley at the team with that Mario brother mustache of his. I don't know what's going on with that, but when he went down, I said, this isn't time for someone to step up here. This is going to be a marquee piece because I know what kind of pop he brings. But I think this team is going to be better because I automatically thought, great, not against Rhys, but maybe we'll get someone who can play a little bit better defense at first. And that's what I was looking toward. I was looking for the challenges. So heading into that season, I just wanted to have all my questions answered of what kind of team was this, what kind of teams were the Phillies going to be? More so what are we going to get more from Rob Thompson of year 2, a full year of Rob Thompson? That was my biggest question. And then was he going to be a one-hit wonder of a manager? Was he going to do some things that we weren't going to see before? Was he going to adapt? Was he going to be more aggressive? all those things were my heading in to this 2023 season.
Yeah, I, like you guys, had the same thing. It was kind of a series of emotions. Heading north, the Phillies started their season on March 30th against the Texas Rangers. And this was kind of what the rotation was. If you guys remember this, this was it. It was Nola, Wheeler. Who the hell was three? It was Walker 3, I believe, Strom 4, and Bailey Falter 5. That was our starting rotation to begin this season. Because we also had Ranger got dinged up in spring training as well.
Yes.
So he couldn't start the season in the rotation. Greg Soto as well arrived late the spring training because he had visa problems coming in from the Dominican. So there was a lot of, and then our starting first baseman was Derek Hall, who, to be honest with you, until he broke his hand about 3 weeks into the season, I was liking the productivity. I was a big Derek Hall guy, but obviously it didn't work out. So I thought the Phillies definitely were coming out of spring with a lot more questions than answers. And that brings me to the start of the season. But before I get into the season, Al, what happens if I have some legal problems, Al, and I need to kind of find someone that really will take care of my needs? Do you have any suggestions for me or the folks out there?
Yeah, absolutely. I got David R. Cherry for you at the cherryinjurylaw.com. Go to the Cherry firm. Listen, guys, we tell you all the time, workers' comp, motor vehicle, personal injury, criminal law, all life-altering moments, and you need the best who will fight for your rights, and David R. Cherry is that man. Go to cherryinjurylaw.com or simply call him at 610-565-0300. The number again is 610-565-0300, cherryinjurylaw.com.
Nah, just call me Matty B, the king of the segue. All right, guys,
Yeah,
we're going to start the season.
You lay it up, I slam it down.
There you go. That's it. I guess, yeah. All right, there you go. So we got the season going on March 30th. The Phillies got swept out by the Rangers. They went to New York, lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees. And they came home sporting a 1-5 record. Al, I remember we talked about this. I think we were on the final together in one of those early shows, and I asked you,
one of us was holding the other one off the edge.
No, I see, but that was me.
Yeah.
But I asked you, I said, Al, are they going to have a flag raising ceremony for a 1-5 baseball team? And you said, you know what, it might be that way. But the rest of the month of April, it leveled out. So the thing with the Phillies is, so with March and April combined, they were 16. They were 0-1 in March and 15-13 in April. So it's 15 and 14. I can live with that in April. I absolutely can live with that because it's all about being healthy and finishing at, near, or above 500. That's all I want for April. That's the two things that is a successful April. But gentlemen, it seems to be the month of May has a real issue with this baseball team. For 2 straight years now, they've had clunkers in May, 10-16 in May, 25-30 through March, April, and May. Pat, why is this team a notorious slow starter? We've already talked about some of the issues that the team had coming north, but still, why can't this team straighten themselves out in May? April, they seem to be okay. They take a nosedive in May. Why is that, in your opinion?
I wish I had the answers of what's wrong with the team in the month of May, but again, I still felt like this team within 2 months of baseball we're still trying to find an identity. We're still trying to figure out who these guys were, and like I said, from my opinion, from what I saw, this you looked at these starting pitchers, right? You had 2 guys who, to me, were very inconsistent. I thought Nola and Wheeler were very consistent in the beginning half, and then you had a bunch of guys that weren't. Let's be honest, were bullpen. To me, it was kind of like bullpen arms, and you had like the Walkers and stuff like that who weren't getting the job done. And like I said, most of the time, this team would put you in a hole, and then this team would have to try and battle back and figure the things out. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the big nose gap is in May, and they had a lot of injuries still. They were trying. I think they were just. No, they didn't get Harper until later on. So again, I don't know. I can't figure it out why this team has a big clunker in the month of May.
Al, same thing. May cost Joe Girardi his job in 2022, And May was not that much better for Rob Thompson in 2023. What is it about the month of May, Al? Is it the flowers? Is it the pollen in the air? Is it bothering them? I mean, what do you think is the issue with May?
Well, put it this way. I don't think May cost Joe Girardi his job. It just was the icing on the cake in his case. But I think when you build a team of power hitters, especially those guys who are kind of on the, getting closer and over the age of 30, it takes, because if you look at the guys who struggled in May, it was the big one was Kyle Schwarber.
He struggled all season.
Harper didn't come in until the end of May, I guess it was.
Right.
And Nick Castellanos was actually doing well. Had a little bit of a clunker in May for a small stretch, but it's all the big power hitter guys. These guys are like diesel engines sometimes, and either they start off strong and then they have a strong April and then they dip in May, or like Kyle Schwarber doesn't know the baseball calendar actually starts before June. That's what you get. You get when you got power, you use diesel engines. And as we all know, diesel engines sometimes just take longer to warm up. And some guys just play better in warmer months. The freak number differences from May to June in the last couple of years has been just unfathomable. I mean, is a good word to be like. It looks like something out of a video game. Like honestly, it shouldn't be the way it is, but it is. You would hope that they can break this, but 1 year after the other, this almost the same May or April, May, and June have happened. I wonder, if this is just the team that we got to deal with, way that's currently constructed. But that's my theory is, big power hitters. And Matt, you kind of alluded onto this, like, you live by the home run, you die by the home run. Well, when you want to live by the home run, sometimes it takes those home runs a while to start warming up and becoming consistent.
Well, as you mentioned, consistency. They found their stride for the second straight June. In 2022, the Phillies were 18-10 in June, and last year 18-8. I mean, just a night and day type situation. The team began to get healthy. I believe we got our 5 starters back, and then we ended up trading Bailey Falter at some point there for Castro, and then Strong went back to the bullpen, which was a really good addition to that bullpen. 18-8 in June. 14-11 in July, and 17-10 in the month of August. 49-29. That was the month or the stretch of time, in my opinion, that kind of just separated the 2022 from the 2023 Phillies. They caught fire. They started hitting home runs at a record pace, 59 of them in the month of August alone, setting a National League record and a franchise record for the most home runs in 1 month. There's a few other records that they set, and we'll go over here in a minute. But again, Al, what is it? Is it your diesel theory that the summer hits? Now, this was summer. This year was a lot better than last summer because they dipped off in August last year. They held pretty tight, as I said, 49-29 through those 3 months. Is it the diesel theory at work there, Al?
Maybe. I also think listen, if you're looking for perfection or 100% in baseball, you're barking up the wrong tree. I mean, a career year is 30%. I always tell people.
Yep.
So certain guys are going to pick up and other guys are going to drop off. And in August, and in July a little bit too, and in August you saw like Castellanos drop off a little bit as he was pretty much carrying this team throughout the beginning of the first half of the season. And we saw it the year before. Harper went down after the San Diego game. And you saw JT Realmuto pick it up for him. Like, it's just different guys pick him up. And, and then even into June and in July, you saw some new faces who really started to turn heads that led into what the season started out to be, both pitching and hitting. Our new center fielder, was one of them. Like, he was a guy that nobody saw coming and actually came out of the gates with a pretty decent bat, even coming cold off the bench. Christopher Sanchez, nobody saw him coming, and he had he did almost the best ERA in June out of all the Phillies pitchers. So it's not just about power hitting, it's about being comfortable and finding, sometimes you got to find that diamond in the rough, and that's what a good manager can do. And I think that's where people take away from the not just I'm not going to say just Dombrowski looking at the talent we currently have, and not just Tomper being able to get the most out of that talent, But the organization as a whole, one thing we've really criticized the Phillies organization is about growing up young talent, and we just signed on, which we'll talk about shortly. One of the few homegrown starting pitchers we've had in a while, but finding guys that we had homegrown, we didn't even know we had. So that I think a little bit by mixing and matching, finding out things that work and don't work, guys getting hot and giving their all. Again, back to our closer in Kimbrel. Like here's a guy who carried you through April, May, June, keeping you in games that maybe you wouldn't have been in if you had any other closer doing what he did. Hitting is career 400 save or whatever it was in that time frame. But things change with baseball being such a long season. I mean, it's literally a year-long sport. I mean, we forget this. Like we talk about April through September into October and even November, but spring training, as we said, starts in February. I mean, the competition as stiff as it is, but February into March into April. I mean, it is a long, arduous season for baseball players. And that's what makes baseball fun too. Guys who start the season as heroes can end the season in the minor leagues and vice versa. So I think it's a little bit of the diesel engine thing, but I think it's also giving this organization a chance to find the right pieces to the puzzle to fit the other current pieces.
Yeah, I agree. And just for a state of context, the Arizona Fall League just ended 2 days ago. So that's where all the top minor league prospects go to play one last 3-week round of baseball before they hang it up for 2 months. But yeah, it's a very long season and it's a very short off season. So I'll dig that. Pat, down to you. And Al alluded to it. Here's some of the changes that the Phillies made to better themselves through that June, July, August timeframe. We mentioned a couple of them. We'll allude to some of the more specific ones. Bryce Harper finding a home at first base. This was something that was talked about. Was he going to DH? He DH'd a little bit, but then we realized, well, we got to get Kyle Schwarber the hell off the field because he's a defensive liability. Where are we going to put Bryce Harper? Then the idea of him playing first base came up, and he took to first base really well, so much so that he's going to be the first baseman of the future. Christian Pache, a pickup by Dave Dombrowski from the Oakland Athletics, a former first-round talent who didn't seem to be able to find his bat with Atlanta or Oakland. Elite defense, elite speed. Johan Rojas, a AAA or AA prospect of our own, who came up and played a very critical role in helping us get as far as we did. Orion Kirkland, a heralded relief pitcher who went from high A ball to the major leagues to the NLCS in all one season. And there's just to name a few of the players that chipped in along the way in that June, July, August timeframe. Pat, again, is it more of that happened in 2023 than it happened in 2022? Because I don't remember any of that in 22. I remember the trade deadline moves, and that was it. There was nobody coming up in the minor leagues. Certainly wasn't three of them that would come up and provide a major part of this team. Nick Maton did not do anything like Johan Rojas provided. Nothing of those sorts. So I'm asking you, what was the difference between the surge of the Phillies this summer than there was, say, last summer?
You just like I said, it was funny to me because, like I said, when Harper came over and took over for, we all had that big question: how's he going to adapt from playing right field to first? How's he going to be? It's going to be a whole nother ball game for him. And no, he just adapted just fine. He did just well. He did perfectly enough. And again, his power bat was there. Like he was playing. He had a little bit of slow start at the gates, but he started to play to his elite, his MVP level of playing. He was just fine. And then again, he was a big piece. Nick Castellanos, was on a tear for the first half of the season. You had, like you said, Bryson Stott right at the gate with a 16-game hitting streak. No one saw that happening.
17.
But it just feels like when somebody gets cooled down, someone steps up, and like you said, some of the pieces that came up, like Rojas, you kind of solidify himself as a potential good that's center field spot because there was times where Brandon Marsh had a couple rough spots and it had to take a game or two where he had to sit down. But Rojas, he had speed, he has length, he He's got he can extend plays in the field. He was really, really a good defensive piece. And then he had a couple pops in the bat, small ball shots. But he needed the one play where he got around triple. He had a couple shots. Him, Pache, good those guys brought to the table. You know, Kyle Schwarber really the diesel effect. He started to pick up a little bit. He started to come around. Getting this team on the scoreboard early. So a couple of those big pieces, all accumulating, all those intangibles came together. Big time in this summer. Like you just saw the Phillies cracked the home run record. They cracked the home run record this summer, hitting 50 in the month of August. I mean, these guys start to really pick up steam. And just like that's one thing about this team is when someone gets cool, someone got hot. Someone got hot. Someone's got cool, someone else got hot. You had Nick Castellanos. That second half came out of the floodgates of the second half of the All-Star. He was off to a slow start. But you had guys like Trey Turner pick it up. You had guys like JT Realmuto with some nice pops here and there. He had some nice games. Then your starting pitching was coming out on fire. Nolas, the Wheelers. I remember, I want to say 4th of July. It was Nola. I did the Phillies post game. It was against the Tampa Bay Rays, and he was just icing it. He was just on fire. So that was some of the big plays from this, from all around the Phillies you got from this year.
Yeah, I was drunk at New Hope that day. It was like 105 degrees out, man. It was hot as hell that day. I remember that. Anyway, I was wasted. It was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, and that was some of the wildfires were going around here. But those guys, like I said, the starting pitching with Nolan Wheeler, man, they start to catch on fast.
They did. And Al, if I hear about these, if I'm a fan, right, and someone tells me about the 59 home runs they hit in August, and I want to get out to Citizen Bank Park next summer so I can catch some of that, where is the best place I can go find tickets?
That'd be Sherry'sTickets.com. That's right, Sherry'sTickets.com. Forget all the other guys. They're going to bamboozle you at checkout. Great prices, no hidden fees. The price on the screen is the price you're going to pay, unless you use that great promo code EOP10, because you'll save additional 10% off with that great promo code EOP10 at Sherry'sTickets.com. Sports, concerts, theater, you name it, they got it. Baseball tickets, football tickets, concert tickets, whatever you need. Sherry'sTickets.com. EOP10, wherever you're at in the country, use it. They have tickets for where you're at. EOP10, save yourself 10% off at Sherry'sTickets.com.
Right. That's what I'm talking about, man. I take this act on the road. Before we wrap up the season and talk a little bit about the postseason, I want to mention some records that the Phillies actually did set this year. You mentioned it a little bit there, Pat. Bryson Stott broke Puddinhead Jones's 17-game hit streak to start this season.
When was the last time you thought you'd be talking about Puddinhead Jones?
Puddinhead Jones. It's not pudding, it's pudding.
Pudding.
Don't forget,
Puddinhead
it's pudding. No G.
Puddinhead.
No G. Yep. Michael Lorenzen, one of our trade deadline pickups that was really just good for 2 starts, but he made him count that second start, a no-hitter, the 14th in Phillies history on August the 9th. Keg Kimbrell, as you alluded to, his 400th save May 27th in Atlanta. Nick Castellanos hit his 200th career hit. And Weston Wilson, his first home run on his first at-bat on August 9th. That was definitely a night to remember in Phillies history, August 9th. So there's some of the records that the Phillies set in the 2023 season. Now let's finish up the season. September and October, 16 and 13, but this was a different type of September and October, guys. This was not like it was in 22 where we were scraping and praying and hoping to God we got help from other teams to try to get in. We had that wild card spot locked up. We had lost the division months prior to the red-hot Atlanta Braves, who you said it a million times this season, Al, was we get hot, Atlanta Braves are hot. We get cold, the Atlanta Braves are hot. Yeah, I mean, we just couldn't catch up. We couldn't get any traction at all to the Atlanta Braves to try to make up any ground in the NL East. But we did coast to that number 1 wild card spot. And we got into the postseason, and the Marlins, Braves, and Diamondbacks were our foes. It's recent. It's still there. I'm not going to go. I don't want to break this down series by series, but I just want to get your overall opinion. I don't think I've ever asked you guys this. postseason only. Al, what went right and what went wrong?
There's a theory behind getting that first round bye in baseball that maybe, you get cold, you get out of sync. Baseball coaches will, they'll deny it. And, there's some teams who don't have that problem. Houston Astros didn't have that problem. But, there is some guys some teams that come in the postseason who just can't do anything. They're just not good, and maybe, let's be honest, the Marlins, they have definitely improved. They made the postseason, but let's be honest, it was a little bit of a warm up for the Phillies. Keep them warm,
Yeah.
keep the engine running until they got into the NLDS against the Braves. Doing what we did to the Braves 2 years in a row, can't expect to happen every time, but it just like our slow starts to the season seem to happen every time. Same thing happens. The Dodgers and the Braves just Esteban, Pat, you've probably heard that 1,000 times from your co-host on PM and the AM from Mike Laro, because he pounds his chest about that one, but he's right. You got to give the man his due when he's right. But, you looked at, okay, the Marlins, you beat them. All right, the Braves and the Dodgers get knocked off by the Diamondbacks. The Braves get knocked off by us handedly for the most part. We should have probably swept them, to be honest with you, if it wasn't for some bonehead plays in the one game. And, did we get a little high on the hog? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Maybe we thought it's the Diamondbacks. We beat them and we walloped them in the 10-0 game. And, and this is just a matter of time. And maybe that's exactly what happened. And all it did was awake a sleeping giant for the Diamondbacks and find a complacent Phillies team. I mean, guys went cold at the wrong time. And Matt, you said it best. I think if you want to sum up what happened in the NLCS for the Phillies and Diamondbacks and what caused the Phillies' downfall was the unwillingness to play small ball. I don't even know if they can or can't. It was just, it felt like, for the most part, the unwillingness to do so.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. Pat, same question. Phillies postseason, what went right and what went wrong?
I to speak on this. I mean, I don't think you've been around somebody who is more nervous heading into the postseason other than me. Because
how many dogs have you gotten in this postseason?
Right. I was terrified. First of all, again, I was nervous on every aspect. One, when we went against the Marlins, I'm thinking, oh, great, this is a team that usually has the Phillies fits, or gives them the fits, rather. I'm thinking, oh, boy, here we go. This is not what I want. I'd rather face the Diamondbacks. I was saying this in the PM and the AM show. I said, I'd rather face the Diamondbacks because, the Marlins are a team that scares me. And no, the Phillies just – that was the appetizer. They took care of the Marlins very handily, and the Marlins are an up and coming team. They that was someone I didn't see making the postseason, so I got to give those guys kudos. Then you go into I call the paper champions, who are good regular season champions. They're very dominant. They ran the table. They ran the whole MLB. But when the Phillies came up to face them, and as much as it hits me in the backside to say this, but gotta give Mike Lauer credit because he's right. This is a team that always chokes hard in the playoffs. So when it came postseason time, I don't know what it is having that first round off. I don't know if they were just sleeping or not with it, but the Phillies just caught them off guard, and they took 4 out of 5 games from these guys. No problems asked. They handled business early. They were just coming at them. They didn't take the foot off the gas pedal. The pitching was really, really superb. I thought the hitting was there. Everything was going right for the Phils. And then here comes the Diamondbacks. And this is the one I actually felt the most confident about because we went to the desert this year. We handled business in the desert. We handled business taking care of Diamondbacks at home. I'm thinking, just going based off regular season data, I'm like, this should be a no-brainer. This is the Phillies, and the Phillies open up. They crack open a 10-0 dub. I said, oh, man, we got this. They took the first 2 games, and then things start to change out there in the desert. Those Diamondback guys were throwing pitching, as Nick Castellanos said in a post-game press conference. Those guys were throwing pitching they never saw before. And those guys were, just working the corners, outside the edges, all that stuff. And then things that really got really frustrating with me. The last game of the season, Bryce Harper, Alec Bohm, swinging at things in the ground, thinking Alec Bohm was swinging at everything. I thought the guy was trying to play cricket. I didn't know what he was swinging at. I was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated with Harper. I thought he was going to have better plate discipline. He didn't. He was another. His couple at bats had me head scratching. I didn't know what I didn't. That was not the Phillies offense that I was used to seeing. That was April Phillies baseball. What I saw at the plate. That was something. That's not how I want to remember the season. And again, kudos to that Diamondback team just being hungry, just coming out the gates. And how about the game prior? Nola just as good as he was through the tail end of that the postseason, the regular season, the beginning of the postseason, he came up like a crab, very short. And the Phillies the Diamondbacks rocked them here. So once that got going, that's when things really got ugly for the Phils.
Ugly indeed, gentlemen. I echo your sentiments and my impression of the postseason of what went good, what went bad. Obviously, the good was we are the daddy of the Atlanta Braves, and Bryce Harper is their daddy as well, and that is a good thing. But as far as everything else, it's taken me time to kind of get over that. And I know you gentlemen had the distinctive pleasure to host the post game on Game 7 of the NLCS, which what was it, about 2.5 hour show? You guys took like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, actually, I think we had all 17 Diamondback fans come at us during that game. So it was an interesting night, but it was cathartic for us as well as it was for the other people chiming in. So yeah, no, it was interesting to say the least. And one little, because I know we're going to move on, but the one thing is when I was at when I was covering the NLDS game, the winning game, and I was talking to the Atlanta skipper, and it's funny how people kept bringing up how Phillies tend to handle their business against them, and how about having time off in between, having that first round bye being not a positive for him. He wanted to say he's starting to think like that, but he couldn't say it. Like, it was funny. Like, he's like, no, the other teams have done it, but maybe there's something to this. But it's interesting to see him tiptoe around it. But we are like you can sit there and say, yeah, you walloped us. You were third. You were at least 10 games ahead of us all season long, which gets you nothing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it really came down to Game 6 and Game 7 to me against the Diamondbacks. Al, you alluded to it. It wasn't maybe a not knowing how to play small ball, but an unwillingness. You just saw every at bat. It looked like they were standing up there with trees in their hands, trying to win the series on one pitch, and it was a wasted opportunity. The fans turned out and made Citizen Bank Park another level of hell for opposing teams in the playoffs, and obviously that's great, and let's keep that up into the future. But it was a waste. It was disappointment on a lot of different levels for me. And yeah, it is what it is. And the Diamondbacks got theirs. I mean, and I don't think anybody really thought Diamondbacks were going to beat the Rangers. Rangers beat them in 5, and the better team is the World Series champions. I mean, the Texas Rangers had a great season, and Bruce Bochy, man, what the hell kind of where does this guy figure out how to manage? What is this, World Series number 4 for him? It's just absolutely amazing.
He just knows baseball.
Absolutely, yeah, he knows winning baseball. So the best team won, and here we are now. Al, before we get on to the off season, if I was feeling really depressed and I needed a place to go to have some good times in the Delco area, maybe to kind of blow off some steam, do you know what place I might go to?
I know a certain guy named PJ Dolan. That's right. Dolan's Bar. Go to dolansbar.com. Right on 24 East Sellers Avenue, Ridley Park, right off the 95 exit for Ridley Park, right south of the airport, right north of Wilmington. So you don't have to be from Delco to enjoy a good time. Some great drinks there, great food, quizzo, music, memorabilia giveaways. You never knew who's going to drop by there. I know myself, Pat, I know you've been to a couple times. We have hung out with some of the greats of the Philadelphia sports, current and past. So you never knew who's going to drop by Dolan's Bar. Go to Dolan's Bar all the time, every time for a good time. Or go to dolansbar.com and follow me on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to see all the happenings at Dolan's Bar.
All right, gentlemen, let's warm our hands on that hot stove because it is that time of the year. We are into the off season. The Phillies have already quietly made some moves. We're going to address the big one right off the bat. Just a few days ago, the Phillies and Aaron Nola have agreed to a 7-year, what is it? 7 years, $172 million contract. I'm going to get Al's reaction first. Well, how do you feel about this?
I felt like it's something they could have done at the beginning of the season. At this point, like if they offered him this money at the beginning of the season, they would have had it. But I wonder. I just wonder. 7 years is, you're buying the first 4 years. Let's be honest.
That's
For
it.
3
Yeah,
plus
that's
years.
it.
Yeah,
That's it.
you're buying the first 4 years. He's what, 30 years old. So it's not the worst case scenario. He's the 23rd highest paid starting pitcher in baseball history, which is kind of crazy to think, but it's true. With 24.6 million a year, it's only about $1 million more than Wheeler's currently making a year in his current contract. But just looking at Nola's overall picture just in 2023, a very up and down season, more down than up in the regular season until towards the end around September, like Pat said earlier. And then just pitched some gems in the postseason.
Beautiful. Yep.
Till it
Amazing.
mattered the most.
Yeah.
And I think what played in Aaron Nola's best interest for a contract was the fact that starting pitchers who were available, free agents at the time, he was the best. And he's the devil we know versus a devil we don't know. And they signed up on him. And I mean, the guy's been in the Phillies organization since he was like 22 years old. So he's going to break records. He's going to, he's quietly becoming one of the most successful pitchers in Phillies baseball. But I just think we need to understand. It's kind of like the Tobias Harris situation. The man got paid. He got paid what he wanted. It's not his fault that he got paid more than maybe he should have. But we'll find out if maybe this will be, maybe like Cole Hamels in 2009, where he had a bit of an off season. Maybe going forward, he will be that next, big pitcher for us into the future. Maybe a guy who takes a guy like Andrew Painter and helps him become the next Aaron Nola, as he worked with Cole Hamels for a few games, few days on the same team before that trade came down. But overall, I'm glad it didn't get drawn out, I guess is the best way, because I really could have felt like this might have been something that happened in spring training, to be honest with you. But they definitely need pitching, and what you're getting with Aaron Nola. And he may not be an ace, but he is I would say definitely a B or a C. He's more of a B when he's on his A game. He is almost an A. When he's average, Aaron Nola, he's a B. But he also has some C minus games as well, and even occasional D's here and there. But some of the best even have bad days. It's baseball. Again, it's a long season, so I'm not always looking for perfection.
Yeah, Aaron Nola, who was drafted in the first round by the Phillies back in 2014. So he's been with the team organization for a minute, and he probably will end up his potentially, I would say his entire career here. But Pat, here's my question to you. Aaron Nola gets paid, right? Gets paid, bang, cha-ching, Cajun and all that. I don't know what you do with $26 million a year. I'd like to find out, and I try to spend it. But what is this? What does this move, in your opinion, have ramifications for the Phillies starting rotation going forward in the immediate future? I mean, in the next 2 years. Zach Wheeler is going to be a free agent at the end of this coming season, 2024. The Phillies cannot continuously spend on. They cannot be frivolous like this. It's already costing them in the luxury tax. They're getting money taken out of their international signing pool. It is hurting this team a little bit below the surface than a lot of people will see. And of course, when you look at this win now philosophy that the team is in, it's really being overlooked because we smell a World Series. But what ramifications do you think this signing has with the Phillies starting rotation over the next 2 years?
Well, they told you which guy they want and which guy they're willing to let walk, because you threw a lot of cha-ching at Noel's feet. So, I mean, I think Wheeler is going to be almost a see you later kind of guy. And yeah, you got to react to this now. Again, just not enough. You're going to have to bring in some arms. Maybe again, you're going to have to try and find some arms out there. I thought for sure we were going to go get the next guy like a Blake Snell and all that. I've heard all those rumors and ramifications were going around, but no, yeah, they're going to have to trying to attack on immediately to go shop around the MLB to bring in some high quality arms and all that stuff and immediately attack this. This is telling me that you want to win now with Nola, and this actually told me a couple things. Actually, this told me you want to win now. You still believe that this team is capable of winning the World Series, and two, you weren't going to let this team. You were not going to let Nola walk to the Mets. I'm pretty Al, and Matt, Mike have talked about this numerous times on the PM and the AM. Like, I felt for sure at the minute he was going to test that free agent market, he was going to fall right in the New York Mets' laps. They have a hitting staff. They just need a couple arms, and I thought that team was going to be ready to rock and roll. And I felt for sure that the Phillies, Dave Nebraska, was not going to let that happen. So they believe in this kid. They believe they just know they have to start going shopping now. And to kind of piggyback off of Al a little bit, it's funny. You want to talk about a pitcher that was in his own head throughout the course of the year was Nola. Right? You had the pitch clock that really got between his head, and you had this contract that really was overhanging this kid. So for him to get the deal done and him kind of catch fire and finally figured out this whole new pitch clock thing, yeah, it's interesting. But to answer your question, Matt, yeah, they're going to have to start fishing now, right now. They probably started already to bring some other arms. And I think, like I said, come next year, Wheeler will not be in the Phillies uniform.
I believe this signing has everything to do with Andrew Painter. I have 100% faith in that statement. I think that Andrew Painter really screwed the Phillies this year. I think, and I mean that by his injury. He personally didn't screw the Phillies. I think the Phillies were banking on getting an idea of what Andrew Painter was in 2023 because they knew they were going to have to pay one, if not both, Wheeler and Nola, and they were making the decision whether or not who to have to pay. And I think that Andrew Painter, his injury, has forced the Phillies' hand to give Nola this contract. I'm not saying it's not deserving, and I'm not saying that Nola should have gotten this contract eventually, but I think this forced the Phillies' hand and put Nola in the driver's seat. And I think Wheeler will be the odd man out. I don't think Wheeler comes back. And there's talk about working an extension out during the season. I think Wheeler's done. I think he's going to take his ball and go somewhere else after 2024 because I don't know if the Phillies are going to be able to afford him. And I think they're going to be back all in on Andrew Painter, a cheaper option coming off of Tommy John. Is that the right idea? Is Mick Abel the right answer? Is McGeary the right answer? Or McGeary? I don't know. But I just don't think the Phillies can continue. McGriff there. I just don't think the Phillies can continue to spend like this. And I think this contract has everything to do with the Andrew Painter injury more than anything else. Is it a bad deal? No, of course not. We are in a win now mentality. We got to keep the rotation together. I don't think this was what the Phillies expected to have to do it in 2024, but it is what it is. They're doing the best they can. Al, you said it. We're paying for 4 years, something I can live with. Nola has been injury-free, banging on the wood there. Hopefully that continues for at least another year. But yeah,
I refer to him as a workhorse in my article here on EOPsports.com, and it is a time and era where the word workhorse is, an endangered species, for lack of better words.
Yeah. So I guess I can kind of go both ways on the deal. I would have been okay if Painter would have shown something and they let Nola go. I'm okay with the fact that Painter didn't show anything due to an injury and they had no choice but to sign Nola. He was the best free agent option out there. If you look at the other pitchers, I honestly believe Nola was the best free agent option with the pedigree and the injury-free history. So I'm okay with it, guys. I really am. Other interesting Phillies free agents, we'll touch on them real briefly, and then we're going to talk about some of the moves that have been made, other moves that have been made. Rhys Hoskins, Craig Kimbrell, and Michael Lorenzen. Real quick, Al, are any of those three coming back?
No, absolutely not. Lorenzen, I think, really soured this team. The only reason I could see Lorenzen maybe would be is if he's going to be a bullpen guy again. Like he definitely not in the starting pitching rotation. Keg Krimble, I asked earlier in the beginning of the year, was he cooked? Maybe I just asked at the wrong time. I think he's cooked. I think he has dead arm, to be honest with you. And maybe, healing in the offseason. But what happened with him in the postseason, the way this, I'll say, town turned on him, and rightfully so. It wasn't like they just, turned on him for no good reason. I just can't see him coming back. No.
Yeah, but he didn't push his way into a game and said, "Move over, Topper, I'm pitching tonight." I mean, he was kind of put in a position.
But again, I mean,
by his manager.
If he's not gonna be able to pitch, well, I don't care if you have to push on your way or not. If he's not going to be available, if he's not available in the game or unavailable out the game, then what's the point of bringing him back? I mean, you've already heard the rumors of Josh Hader as a landing here in Philadelphia. It'd be interesting how many moves they could make. I mean, the fact that you made a $24 million a year for 7 years deal with Aaron Nola, what does that do with you for anybody else? Because the other question is they're also looking at Yamamoto. They're still in that. I don't know if it's just talk to scare people away, but I mean, how many of these big deals can you make? They said they're not going to move on from Nick Castellanos. I mean, I remember I read a couple reports or ideas that people had, where they could still trade Nick Castellanos, bring back a certain Rhys Hoskins and put him in left field, and for a lesser deal, so they can afford maybe one of these other people. But how do you extend Zach Wheeler and bring in Yamamoto and whatever else you have to do? But if you can get Yamamoto just for next year alone, just look at the picture alone, it would be sick having a healthy Aaron Nola, healthy Zach Wheeler, healthy Ranger Suarez, and if this Yamamoto guy pays out to what he is, I mean, if you look at his baseball style, I know it's the Japanese league, but they breed some great players out there. We're watching, the Shohei Ohtani show come about. If it wasn't for his need for Tommy John surgery now, he'd be getting a $500 million paycheck right now. But the guy's a 5-time All-Star, 3-time ERA champion, 2-time NPB Triple Crown champion, and the Pacific League equivalent to the MVP and Cy Young Award. So other than that, this guy sucks. But how you would pull all that off, if Dombrowski could somehow pull that all off legally, I'd be amazed to see how that works. But I think if you're pulling all that off, you are mortgaging the next few years for the rest of the years coming after that.
And that's my point is that, I get it that Middleton wants to spend. We want to win, but there's got to be a limit because it's going to have ramifications at some point down the line. And Yamamoto, who is, I believe it's not only just there's fire there, I think, because he said there's only like 3 teams he's seriously in talks with, and one of those teams are the Phillies. So
apparently, rumor has it Bryce Harper went and he did something with him and like helped him with a promotion or something. So I mean, Bryce Harper gets what Bryce Harper wants. Let's just throw it out there.
Apparently, yeah,
he gets what he wants. I mean, obviously, he sits in these meetings. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in the meeting talking about Aaron Nola. If he was the one on the phone wheeling and dealing with Aaron Nola and getting Aaron Nola to take a little hometown discount, I don't know. But Dombrowski said it himself. He said, well, we got to talk to Bryce Harper and see how he feels about the situation. Why would you let Bryce Harper make if he's only...
Okay, now he prefaced it after he said, he's like, well, listen, we have saying it too. I mean, he backpedaled a little bit on that. I remember listening to that.
You can backpedal all you want, but it doesn't make it less.
He cracked him that can.
All right, Pat.
Listen, I backpedal with my wife all the time. That never pans out.
Pat, some of the other moves the Phillies have made this offseason, low-level moves. The Phillies went out and they purchased the contract of Josh Fleming, a pitcher from the Tampa Bay Rays, and then they turned around and didn't offer him a contract, so he's a free agent again. The Phillies also signed Michael Machado, a right-handed pitcher from the Tampa Bay organization. Didn't really pitch, I believe. I think he spent most of his season down there in Double-A. Or high A ball, so he doesn't really figure much in for the 2023 season. The Phillies also acquired outfielder Hendry Mendez and shortstop Robert Moore from the Brewers for Oliver Dunn. These are all minor league players. Again, not really lending in much of the immediate future. But the Phillies also re-signed Jake Cave, Dylan Covey, and Garrett Stubbs to contract extensions for 2024. So, they didn't say this outright, Pat, but at the end of season press conference, he might as well said it. The Phillies are running this thing back in 2024. How do you feel about that, specifically with maybe the return of those three individuals, Covey, Stubbs, and who else did I say was there part of that group?
Cave.
Covey, Stubbs, and Cave.
Cave.
One of the major issues this team had in 2023, in my opinion, was a mediocre to negligent bench. And it looks like it's kind of starting to shape up the same way in 2024. How do you feel about the offseason moves so far and the running back of the Phillies?
Well, the two kids they brought in for the minor moves they brought in from the Brewers, I automatically saw what drew Dave Dombrowski's eyes by bringing those kids over here. A lot of RBIs, a lot of base stealing. And what was the majority of and that's what I got to give the Phillies in the postseason. They were doing a lot of RBIs and a lot of aggressive base stealing. That was one of their key factors to success. So I can see why he brought them in. Now going based on these minor moves, Garrett Stubbs, absolutely yes, I would sign him immediately. He showed a lot. Again, he showed he could fill the void when JT Realmuto needs to take a break. He's just as fine. He might not have.
And nobody wears a case of Budweiser over his head quite like he does. So.
No, and no one wears overalls and no underwear like he can either. But he's got that going on. The Kobe, I still need a little bit more of a sample size. What I saw when he opened it up, was not great, but he came down in reality. He played a little bit better out of the bullpen. And Jake Cave, no, I don't need you. Please, no. Go back. You are a AAA master, but you do not belong in the majors. I don't know what the love is for this guy. I'm still trying to figure it out. You saw in desperation mode, they threw him to the plate, so that's why no one else could look bad. They just said for him. No. Please. No more J Cave. I'm out of the back cave, whatever you want to call it, cave. I'm done. No J Cave for me.
Listen, Garrett Stubbs, when he shot his mouth off, ended any kind of validity. I'd rather have Marchand up here next year. The kid from the High Valley. I send Stubbs on his way, but no. Jake Cave, I'm out as well on Jake Cave. Same with you, Pat. Let's take a look around Major League Baseball because there's been some action, little light action, but some players have signed, low-level guys. Kyle Gibson's going to St. Louis for 1 year. He was with Baltimore last season. Lance Lynn going from the Dodgers to the Cardinals. Ricky Vansco remains with the Dodgers as a pitcher. And Paul DeJong, who actually is in the news right now, finalizing a deal taking him from the Giants to the White Sox. So there's are your moves in Major League Baseball free agency at this moment in time, Pat. Pat, one last question for you, and we're going to wrap things up because it's bittersweet here on the Phightins Phinal because we're not going to probably come back together here for a few months after this show.
No, it's Thanksgiving.
But here we are, Pat. We've got to the end. We're moving on to 2024. What does Pat from Ambler want to see this Phillies team do between now and the start of spring training that's going to make you think that this is a World Series winning team?
Wow, great question. I mean, to get me back on board full-heartedly, of course, I would like to see them running back. Again, they did things in the postseason with the aggressive base stealing and but to me, it's just gotta they just gotta show more consistent, more the starting pitching is got to be the one gray area that I need fulfilled. I need to know what kind of what arms are we going to get. Are we because like I said, majority of these games we found ourselves down 0-3, 0-4 to start games, and your offense had to battle back and win games for you. I'm not concerned about the offense. The offense has shown me tons. They can hang with the best of them. Were there a couple cold nights from this offense? Absolutely. Again, there was a couple cold nights against the Mets and the Braves. I got all that. But the starting pitching for me has to be answered because when Nola and Wheeler are not on their A games like last year, I go to who's going to step up. We're going to have a full healthy Ranger, like Al mentioned, I did like what I saw from Christopher Sanchez. The only thing he did not have in his repertoire was a fastball. He needs to come up with some kind of creative fastball. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I mean the team overall, like I said, the starting pitching has to get me back on board. And will the bats be the same? Was this a one hit wonder from Nick Castellanos, and all those guys? What's going to be the difference maker? Are we going to get a hot, fresh Trey Turner from the gates, not from the second half, from the gates? That's all those questions have to be answered for me. But yeah, to get me back on board, the starting pitching must be answered.
Al, I asked Pat this. I'm going to ask you this. With the moves they've made so far this offseason, they bring back Nola. Obviously, going to let Reese walk. Made some low-level moves there so far, minor league-wise. Brought back Covey, brought back Cave, brought back Stubbs. What do the Phillies have to do to make Al believe that the Phillies are going to win the World Series in 2024 this offseason?
I mean, they made some decent moves already. Let's be honest. The Rhys Hoskins idea, we all kind of knew he was gone once we saw how well Bryce Harper took to first base. It was from a business standpoint. I kind of always relate him to Tobias Harris. You always go, I really like him, but there's always a but that comes to Rhys Hoskins, and he's not necessary for this team right now. And he would demand enough money that it's not worth it. You need to find decent role players. A deep bench is where it's going to be. I like Jay Cave. I know Pat's not big on Jay Cave, but I do like Jay Cave. Is he the answer, to play every day? I don't know. Probably not. The guy does put up some magical numbers, though, in the minors where it's hard not to look at him. And he's had some moments, but if he's playing every day outside of somebody having an injury, I'm going to get a little nervous. But having somebody being a role player like Jay Cave, I'm good. Garrett Stubbs is a very good backup catcher. Call for what it is. To me, he's better than Knapp was, and he does bring energy to that team, so that's a plus. These other small moves, like with the Brewers and all that, I see a pond being stocked for a couple good reasons. It could be we need some new pieces in the minor leagues affiliates. Maybe there's a trade coming down the line. I don't know that they're going to need these pieces to fill in spots that are going to be soon to be vacant. I don't know. But to answer your question, I like what they're doing so far. I would like I really think they have the players to play the field and bat as much as they do. I really don't see where you're going to have much of an upgrade anywhere. In the center field, I mean, I'm hoping you're going to work with Rojas in the offseason to make him a better hitter. I mean, the man had ice water in his veins until the postseason. Brandon Marsh playing left field, I'm okay with. I like it. Brandon Marsh, his bat actually. I mean, Charlie Manuel, like what he saw with him before he even swung a bat once for the Phillies. Trey Turner playing consistent Trey Turner ball, I'm happy with. Nick Castellanos in right field defensively, I'm happy with. I think what they need to do is they need to change the mentality of this team. And I think that's what it is. I think they had a really good sauce in 2022, and they try to run back with the same sauce again. But I think that sauce needs a little enhancement. And what I mean by that is learn how to spray the ball all over the field, not just blast home runs constantly. If you can do that and you just work with the starting pitching and pitching in general, I mean, the bullpen needs a little upgrades in some areas. We definitely need to find a closer unless you're going to run with, I don't know. Who would you run with? It's not Dominguez. He's out as a starter. Maybe Alvarado possibly could be a closer. So you have some pitching pieces there. And again, baseball is a finicky sport. Yeah, Dominguez had a great 2022, not so great 2023. Maybe it's a good 2024 again. I don't know. Maybe be one of those guys that bounce back and forth. It's really hard to tell, but I would like to see another bullpen piece, either a true blue closer or a setup guy that can go along with Alvarado, because I don't want to be just relying on Alvarado all the time. But if you can bring in this Japanese ace, I don't know if I'm most worried about signing Zach Wheeler to an extension at that point. I mean, if you have him and he can pan out to be what he is, and maybe this is the plan all along, because you have to look at it one way. And what I do is I can't really show it on the screen because it won't show up here on my board, but you have to look at the contracts on a timeline. Where does one begin and one end? And where do the ones end before other ones end? Because let's be honest, I think you're on 2 years left on Nick Castellanos, and the way he's going, it doesn't look like they were going to even think about renewing him. Kyle Schwarber's 3 years or 2? One of them had 4, one had 5. I forget which one it was. So you got those two guys in the last couple of years going forward. So Aaron Nola will still be in the thick of what he's doing. You can replace those guys maybe with big names because the money will come off the books. Got to give Dombrowski some credit because he's lining these things up appropriately. Yes, this year you're going to have a lot of big numbers, big time paid players, but come two years down the line, you might have a wide open purse. So I'm excited to see what happens. I think this team is going to be is good. Is setting up to make another postseason run, but to make a World Series run and win it all, another good starting pitcher. I know I went a real long way of putting all that out just to say, show me a good starting pitcher, but I would love to see Yamamoto, and if they could somehow extend Wheeler, maybe just a couple years. But I don't know. Wheeler might want one more big payday, and if he's pitching at a high level like he was last year, we're just not going to be able to afford him in the 2025. It is what it is.
No, we're not. And I kind of agree with what you guys said. I'm huge on the bench concept. I think they need bench pieces. They need one bench piece. Someone that I don't want Jay Cave ever holding my season on his bat like he did this year. So we got to strengthen that bench. You mentioned the Josh Hader. And
we need a Dobbs. That's what we need. We need a Dobbs type player.
Yeah. And you mentioned Josh Hader. I'm okay with bringing him here, but I don't know if a true closer like a Josh Hader type is going to come here because they don't use relief pitchers in traditional roles here. There is none of that. There is, the setup guy and the closer are different night to night. And I don't know if a Josh Hader would sign on for something like that, honestly. I mean, he wants to be used as he's used to being used as a closer. So if the Phillies are willing, and I hope they would be, to change that philosophy, because we do need a bona fide closer. We need someone that we can go to in the ninth inning and lock the door down. So if we can get ourselves a closer, we can get ourselves a solid bench piece or two, I would definitely be that would get me back thinking that this team is going to win a World Series. Right now, they're an NLCS team for me, or second round, third round playoff team. They got to get a little bit better. And you said the contact hitting, 266 batting average, the runners in scoring position throughout the whole season. Never once got above 270. They finished around 15th overall in the league, and then a putrid 224 runners in scoring batting average in the postseason, which obviously was their downfall. But so that's where I think we need to start contact hitting and a solid bench piece. Gentlemen, yeah, go ahead. Somebody go say.
No, if I can add, like Al, I listened to you say about just spread out the little bit of the power bats, and it's hard for me now the second year in a row. And I know this is going to really twist Matt's leg here. It is when your leadoff man has two for the second year in a row. Is the head case leads the league in strikeouts, 215 strikeouts. I mean, I know this is beating a dead horse, but they got to spread him throughout the course of I know he's comfortable in that leadoff spot. That's where he does his motor productivity, but he's a major league player at the end of the day. He should be able to
produce. That lineup needs to be balanced out, Al. I agree with what Pat's saying. It needs to be balanced out.
Yeah, he's an MLB player at the end of the day. He should be able to, it doesn't matter whether he's lead off, clean up, eighth, whatever. He needs. I mean, like I said, we all get excited when he leads. Couple games where he gets the team going and all that. But 15 strikeouts, the strikeout king for 2 years in a row. It's a little hard to turn your cheek at in a positive note.
Listen, I don't disagree with having somebody like a Trey Turner or just trying to think who else would you put in that top spot. Stott would be a good one. Brandon Marsh could even be a good one when he's hitting good.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with it, but I just the only thing I can push back with it is this just might be the devil we know. and this Devil's on contract for at least a couple more years, unless they trade him away. And it's just where he thrives, and that's where the numbers show him that he thrives. And no matter when he could be on the biggest hitting game streak. If you move him into any other position when everybody else looks like hitting at the 4-hole would be like the dream of any MLB player back in the 90s into the early 2000s. Now it's like, no, this is where it fits best. So it just, again, I think it's a song and dance we can sing and dance and talk about the whole time, but I don't know if it's ever going to change until Schwarber is out of here. But because at the same time, you could talk about being the strikeout king, but he was also, outside of a couple of players, he was tops in home runs, tops in on base percentage. He's an enigma, guys. Like let's just call it for what it is. Kyle Schwarber is not there. You can't use typical baseball strategy with him. You can't use typical baseball thought process because you could sit there and go, well, look, he's the strikeout king, and I can sit there, look, he has the most on base percentage, being the strikeout king. How many times can you show somebody that has like, I look at like at the Eagles game on Monday night, like look at if I showed you the stats like before the game started, like I came from the future and I showed you the stats without the score, you'd be like, there's no way the Eagles won. They were dominated on on the good stats that you want to be dominated on. Well, I mean, it's the same thing here. A guy's home run, he is home run or nothing, but no, he's home run walk or nothing. If it wasn't for that walk stats, yeah, he probably wouldn't be. He'd be a bench piece somewhere, and he'd definitely be in the 4-hole. But because of the analytics showing that he can get on base either by play discipline, and that's the other thing is I think, and not just with him, but in general, like that would be my mantra. And that's what made I think Nick Castellanos a much better player this year. Is that he had play discipline until he got in his own head. And that's where he fell apart. When he is off, and he swings at everything. And it almost became contagious in the spring. But Kyle Schwarber is what Kyle Schwarber is. And, be damned, you're not unhappy when he blasts some mighty home runs. Would I like a couple runners attached to it? Absolutely. Yes. But if his home run production slinks off 50% because he's not in that top hole, and can I just add this in? I'm just playing devil's advocate in this situation.
Right.
Don't tell me how many of these leadoff home runs that he had to start the game didn't set the tone for a lot of those wins that they had in the regular season.
Oh, absolutely. I will give him that credit. I said, he again, there's a couple of games when he's on, and it's not just one home run. There's been multiple home run hits from him. It just lingers me. Like I said, 2 years in a row. You're swinging at anything, and like I said, it's not just pick apart him. And like I said, that last game of the year had me frustrated with more of the MVP and more of the guy says, I love this place now. I mean, they were hacking at things that were in the ground. I mean, there was low curveball.
I cut you off, Pat, but they are all in their own heads at the end of this. Yeah, looking at that NLCS second half of that NLCS, they got into panic mode and they all did it. Yeah, I mean, Bryce Harper down. I mean, they all did it. I mean, Bryce
right there.
And again, Bryce Harper was one, maybe a yard away from us not talking about losing the NLCS to the Diamondbacks.
No, I mean that's
baseball in a nutshell.
Let me jump in here, guys, because we'll be up here till Christmas talking, and which I don't mind, but I know you guys have wives that don't like that. I live a free life, so I can do whatever I want. But anyway, Kyle Schwarber, I'll put my 2 cents worth in on that. You can kill me with the analytics and the on-base percentage all you want. He's a leadoff hitter, right? So he gets on base. What the hell? Why do I want Kyle Schwarber setting the table with a walk? He ain't running. I mean, I can't move him around the base pads. He's a liability on the base pads. So granted, I'm looking at one thing and one thing only, and that's his ability to hit a home run, because that's all I want him for. So yeah, he does not deserve to be a leadoff hitter. He bats 198. Was that his average? His final average was below 200, I think. I got to look it up, but I think it was right either that 200 or right below. There's no way in God.
200.
Yeah, there's no way you're going to ever justify to me that says that Kyle Schwarber deserves to be in the leadoff spot because of his ability to get a walk. What the hell does that got to do with anything?
What
He doesn't
one
do
thing
anything
that
with
might have
that
came out of
ball.
that one thing that might have came out of that NLCS positively for the Phillies is they might have set the table for people thinking like that, and may force the Phillies to change that thought process.
That's a very good point.
What I mean
But
is
no,
they walk the power hitters because the guys behind them weren't hitting. But now
absolutely.
if Trey
They're
Turner
pitching
starts,
around.
see the thing is if Trey Turner is playing like Trey Turner did in August and September, you can't just walk Kyle Schwarber to get to Trey Turner.
Yeah,
And that was what the thought process was. But when Trey Turner was struggling, yeah, you could.
absolutely. No, you're right. And it worked against them that way. I agree with you, but I think they got to balance that lineup out. I think they might have the pieces. Offensively, they're a pretty stout team. And, they hit 276 home runs, which is off the charts. So I think they're pretty stout offensively. But, gentlemen, we've gone to the part of the program where we got to do rapid fire because you guys got to go to bed. But here's the deal. I'm gonna ask you the question. You give me the answer, and you have 3 seconds to answer the question. Pat, who is your 2023 Philadelphia Phillies MVP?
Give me Trey Turner.
Al, who is your Philadelphia Phillies 2023 MVP?
I'm gonna take an easy way out. I'm gonna say Bryce Harper. Way he came back and played and just shocks the world with his ability to defy medical science. Bryce Harper.
And my 2023 Phillies MVP, I'm gonna go with Zach Wheeler. He wasn't Zach Wheeler of 2022, but good God, he was damn close. And when we needed dominant pitching in the playoffs, every time he got up on the mound, he delivered, and he delivered dominantly. And that's why I think we might have given the contract to the wrong pitcher. But I'm gonna go with Zach Wheeler. One final thing, boys, before we head out. The Baseball Hall of Fame released its 2024 Baseball Hall of Fame ballot. Take a look at this thing. Jimmy Rollins, his third year of eligibility. Chase Utley is now entering his first year of Hall of Fame eligibility. Bobby Abreu up there as well, his fifth year of eligibility. Take a look at these. Yeah, Billy Wagner's on there. So we got 4 former Phillies. And just by looking at this, David Wright now is on the. I think this is David Wright's second year. Out of this list, and I'm not asking who you think. I don't think any Phillies are going to make it this year, but we haven't had a Phillies player inducted in Cooperstown since 1995. And we had 2 of them at the same class, Richie Ashburn and Mike Schmidt. Who out of Abreu, Wagner, Utley, or Rollins gets in and first? Who do you think gets in?
I'm going to go Rollins. I'm going to go Jay Rollins. I'm a huge Chase Utley fan. I think Bobby Abreu also had a hell of a career. But, I mean, he is just beloved. And remember, there's a very big popularity contest with the Hall of Fame. It's not all based on stats, but the man had a hell of a career, came up very young, played most of his career in Philadelphia. It was productive even in his later twilight years. Leader, he's on TV now, so he's beloved by other broadcasters and people who make a lot of the guys who would vote for him. So I think Jimmy Rollins could definitely be the first Philly on this list to make it.
What about you there, Gobbler? Who do you think out of these Phillies, or former Phillies, is the first one to make it into the Hall of Fame?
I'm going to go that 08 team, but I'm not going to go to the shortstop. I'm going to go to the second baseman, Chase Utley. I think he's got the numbers. I think with his name being the newest one to the realm, I definitely see him being and like Al said, it's a popularity contest. And here in Philly, he was maybe the most beloved guy on that whole team. The guy's got numbers. He's got the stats. Just the things he's done for this community. I can't see why him not being on there. Be the first one to go.
Yeah, I agree with you, Pat. I think it might be Utley. But I think Rollins will go. I don't think Abreu is going. I think Rollins and Utley will eventually get in. And I would love, because I know the Phillies have this unwritten rule about not retiring a player's jersey unless they've been enshrined in Cooperstown. I would love to have a dual retirement ceremony. It would be great if Rollins and Utley went in together. That would be
Oh my God.
I'd be living in Cooperstown that week. And that would be a great way to spend the summer. But best second baseman ever to come through this town. I think he was better than I think in baseball ease. I'm going to put him up against Ryan Sandberg as the best in the game. Honestly, he had more success than Ryan Sandberg did. Ryan Sandberg's career lasted a little longer. He was a little bit better longer, but yeah, I'm going to go with Chase Utley. That's my guy. I think it's Utley.
I would not be upset with that.
No, neither would I. Gentlemen, we have come to the portion of the program where it's time to say adios. And before I let you guys go, and I know Mike's not here, but I want you to pass. And well, hell, we all work on Clear the Ice together, so it's not like we don't see each other. But it's been a great year. I want to thank you guys for joining the crew this year, making it bigger, better, and better than it was in 2022. As I ducked out for a little bit this past summer. I work as a gynecologist in a women's prison in the summertime, so I spent a lot of time kind of at work. No, I'm just kidding. I was doing some other things, but you guys definitely held down the fort, and I want to thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor working with you guys. I really, I think the Phightins Phinal is in great hands moving forward. And before I let you go, Gobbler, tell the folks out there where they can find you.
Oh, first of all, again, thank you guys. Again, the reason again, one of the main reasons I'm here on EOP is because of you, Matt, and you just constantly doing every day last year, getting this ball rolling. You did every game on your own, and I said, man, I know Al. I got to meet Al and Joe. But I said, this guy right here, he's on fire. He's every day, Memorial Day, every day last year. I said, I got to work with this guy. I got to sign up and work with him. And when I got the opportunity this past summer to do these things on my own and with you guys, especially come the postseason, get to work with you guys, this has been a blast. This has been a blast of a great opportunity. There's been many games I did this past summer, Father's Day, Memorial Day, 4th of July. I got to be part of, but yeah, I enjoyed every opportunity I've been given. Everyone here did a hell of a job, and of course working with Al till about 2:00 in the morning on the Game 7 of the NLCS. Yeah, that was quite some time, but yeah, love working with you guys. Let's keep on pushing together. And tomorrow, since it's Thanksgiving, catch me here.
No, it's Thanksgiving today, Pat. It's Thanksgiving today. It's happening right now.
Sorry. I already got. Never mind.
No, just say tonight.
Tonight. So catch me right here, EOP, Black Friday. Immediately clear the ice. Flyers, Rangers, let's go. I'll be here.
Yeah, and my man Big Al, I'll never forget the conversation I had with you in March of 2022. I was with the network.
What are you, nuts?
4 months, and I said I want to do a Phillies postgame show, and he said,
"What are you, nuts?
Well, why are you nuts? Why don't you just do one game a series or whatever?" I said, "No, I can do 162 games." Let me tell you what, I'm never going back to just doing it by myself because it was a great year. I'll never forget that, but it's a lot better when there's more people involved.
Well, I'll give you all the credit. Listen, you are a fearless leader. I gave you the helm, and you ran with it, and you jockeyed it the whole way through, and you brought us knuckleheads along with you. You kept us organized, and we all took on different, components of it, but all brought our own flavor at the same time. But you kept it going, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Pat and Mike and everybody at EOP, because EOP has taken leaps and bounds, and 2024 is just going to be. I'm excited. I'm excited to clue everybody in on what's going to happen in 2024 as it works out. But you guys, it is Thanksgiving, and I know you're stuffed and you're sitting around, and maybe you missed some of these things going on. You can grab the podcast. After this, you can hang around. We have another show coming up, Fly Like an Eagles podcast, with our boy Mitch Kofsky coming up right after this. And then, like Pat said, we had Clear the Ice, got the Steel Steps, plenty of things Saturday and Sunday going on. So plenty of things to cover you. No less work here at EOP just because it's Thanksgiving. But we want to thank you guys on your holiday for, hopefully we can get you waiting while you're waiting for that turkey to cook. We got 3 other turkeys to talk to the entire time. So, and yeah, guys, I hope you enjoy your Thanksgiving, and happy Thanksgiving, and happy beginning of the holiday season from all of us here at EOP to all of you guys out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo those sentiments. And as we sit here about 2.5 months away from pitchers and catchers report. We're going to try to come back at least one more time this winter with the Phightins Phinal, maybe a hot stove check-in, maybe closer to spring training. And who knows, Al? Who knows? Maybe you'll see the Phightins Phinal on location down there in Clearwater. I don't know. I'm just saying potentially could be something that we could be figuring out. But we're going to have bigger. We're going to have some. We're going to layer this thing and make it bigger and better for next season. So be on the lookout for all the new advances. And as Al said, maybe we'll be bringing on some new people. That would be great as well. But it's been an honor working with you guys. And I honestly, but truth be told, I worked as an umpire all summer up in Cooperstown and really did not do as much as I should have. But you guys were there to back me up, and I appreciate that. So it was great working with you guys. And before I say goodbye and happy Thanksgiving as well, got to hear from one more guy. Take us out for maybe the last time in 2023. Oh, Harry the K. What you got? He